Is that a point gained or a couple of points lost today, bearing in mind you ended the game with 10 men?
Yeah, I think, listen, you always respect the point and you never ever take it away. I think if, when we were 11v11, I think probably we were the more likely team to score. And I thought, with bringing the subs on, Tyler had that effort and, fantastic save by their keeper. And I thought that if we were able to then build a bit of momentum going forward and for the last 10-15 minutes, who knows what would have happened, So, but the way the lads managed the game out and everything else, I thought it was excellent. The way they took on the instruction, what you sent on and, got hold of a couple of players, and the way they dealt with it was really good, and it's only limited them to really one big chance. And you've got to have that look at that moment, and we did today.
The savage chance.
The savage chance, yeah. To have they had that chance, and and another day he sticks it in, and you're going away, deflated. But today, sometimes you need that look in football, and we got it today. And I don't feel we've had it. A lot of the times with the goals which have gone against us. The one here last week against Rotherham, which sort of after all the saves Bergie's made and what he's done, that goes against you. But that's football, and what you've got to do is you've got to ride it, and what they've done since that night, in terms of the quality of a performance last week, and then another performance what they've put in today. I'm really pleased. 4 points out of these 2 games. A lot of people wouldn't have thought we get that.
You were asking for a big performance at home after a great performance away at Peterborough last weekend. You got that, didn't you? A high-tempo performance from your team today. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it's really good because I'm looking at my bench now, and I'm wondering which one to put on. Whereas a few weeks ago we didn't have that opportunity or them options. So it's the squad's getting there now. Unfortunately, obviously we lose Terry next week because of he's Charlton's player, and we lose Nest because of obviously the red card. Which was a bit disappointing. I thought the yellow card was a bit harsh in the first half, to be quite honest, with the things what were going on. I thought, I don't like talking about referees, but I thought he, got quite a few little bits wrong today, where, and they always seem to be against us, but probably until you'll say the same about them, But look, I'm just really pleased with what was another really good performance, a solid display, and then when we had to sort of, grind and grit your teeth and block and put your bodies online and run that bit harder. They did it today, and they were fantastic. So hats off to them.
You did get very cross with the fourth official about a challenge on Fosu towards the end. That seemed to make you especially disappointed.
Unfortunately, he didn't see it, but the referee seen it, and he was the only one in the actual stadium who thought that it was a foul to them. Because even their staff were laughing at it. But Aaron, he handled it really well, to be quite honest, because he said, to be fair, Kevin, I didn't see it, so because I was doing the subs for them. But look, I can get them, but when a lad diving heads at, knee height, and my lad goes in, that's not dangerous play by my lad. That's the lad being really brave and trying to win a ball, and then taking my lad out because he's won the ball. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed in that moment, because their moments where we can then maybe put the ball in the box, get the ball in their area, but all of a sudden they're doing it the opposite way around, and that's where I say it's not about the actual foul, what they give, it's about the consequences of what that foul brings to us, because they end up then going up the other end and then maybe getting a corner, throwing and putting us under pressure as 10 men, whereas we could actually be in theirs and sort of start putting a bit of momentum for us. So that's why I get so upset with the calls. But look, it is what it is.
It's a good point. You made a point of coming out before the game and applauding the West Stand fans in a very demonstrative way. Was that in recognition of their support last week? Was it an attempt to kind of G them up for today's game? Because the atmosphere here isn't always quite as good as maybe it is on the Cobblers Travels.
Listen, you can't knock them on the Travels. They're absolutely fantastic. Every one of them are brilliant. They get bit right behind them. But what I would say is that I think we're trying to create something here, and at the moment, certainly in the last 2 games, we haven't given them much to cheer about. So that's always what we've got to do. If we produce and perform like we have today, then that gives them something to sing about, that gives them something to chant about, that gives them something to shout about. So it's up to us, it's down to us as well, but what I will do is I'll thank them for coming, because we want their support, we want them to be loud, we want this place to become a fortress where people don't like coming. And what we've done today to a really good Red side is we've limited them to really, really low chances. I think they can only remember the Charlie and then maybe one save what Bergie made in the first half.
In the first half.
Yeah, so the save, and then the one. But apart from that, can't really think of anything where they where they've caused a lot of teams problems. I think they've lost 1 in 15. You know, I think Peterborough last week was 1 in 10 before we played them. So 4 points out of the 2 games. I don't think anybody was giving us a sniff at that. But look, I've got confidence in these lads, and we know what we've got to go and do is go and produce it away from home again against what's another fantastic Charlton side who's on a really good run at the minute again. So, you know, trying to get into them. Well, I don't know if they're in there or they're trying to get in there at the minute. So it's up to us. But like I say, concentrate on us. You know, control the controllables, and that's what we'll be doing this week.
I would ask you about the league table, which is in some ways improved with that draw here today with Bristol Rovers.
It always
losing.
improves, mate, when you get a point, let me tell you. Just keep getting points and putting on the board, and I promise you it improves.
Yeah, after 47 points now. Just a final one about, well, 2 final ones. One, to the uninitiated, tell us what you did today to produce this home performance that was so much better than it was against, for example, Blackburn against Rotherham. What was said in the week that kind of engendered that?
Well, I think obviously when you win in the fashion that we did last week, that brings confidence, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to take that confidence into today's game. You know, I think no one can take away from these lads what that they're producing and what they're trying to do. You know, but you know, there was times last week I just thought there was moments in the game where, you know, sometimes it just falls for them, and they, you know, or our lads are doing things wrong, or they're just making them little mistakes and they're getting punished for them. And I think that's what's happened over them last 2 games. You know, I don't think when we've looked back at the game, it's not as bad as what everybody sort of thinks it is. But in moments they've took their chances and we haven't. You know, you can think about we were, you know, stacked in their half for the second half against Rotherham, and then one attack in the second half and they scored. You know, that happened against Stockport. You know, they didn't have a shot on target till the 78th minute. We're 1-0 up, sort of in control and controlling them. Next minute, ball in the box, header from 15 yards out, which you probably won't see if we see it twice a season in this league. I'd be surprised. And next minute they're 1-1, and then that gives them momentum. You know, when with the quality of players they're in, then we're sort of hanging on. So they're the moments where you've got to look back and you can't get too low. And obviously I was disappointed because of the manner and the goals of what we can see. But what I will say is that we still had opportunities in them games. Today what we've done is we've matched a very good Reading side, limited them to chances. But what we haven't done is we haven't punished them when we've had our opportunities. And then obviously, as I say, the game sort of turns and they go into a little bit more, you know, control mode, if you like, after we go down to 10, and that's always going to happen. You've seen that with us last week. You know, we controlled the second half to our tempo, how we wanted it, and what Peterborough were doing was trying to make sure that it didn't get any worse than 3 or 4 or whatever. So yeah, it's just managing the game in them moments, and that's what we're really getting better at, and I think that's where this performance comes from. 2
consecutive clean sheets. Now you go to Charlton on Good Friday without at least 2 key players. It's a tough game, that, of course. Maybe Tom Eves back for that. He was missing today with injuries.
Yeah. Tom went down with he just felt his thigh, so we're waiting on the scan. You know, it looked a sore one, if I'm honest. But look, we'll know more in the week.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.